Hi, I'm Amy, thanks for tuning in. This is my wrap-up video for September of the books I've read, some of the things I've been up to. I didn't read that many books in September. The Taste of Darkness YA horror anthology came out, so I launched that in London, had an absolutely brilliant time with lots of the authors and lots of readers. I also went for my husband's birthday to Whitby and did a signing at the bookshop there, got to visit the Abbey and take lots of pictures of the Mina books round and about Whitby, so that was all really fun, but didn't really lend itself to having lots of reading, getting lots of reading done. I also have been really hard at work editing a couple of writing projects, so the reading definitely took a back burner this month. But I read some really amazing books that I'm excited to share with you. So first up, I got sent an early copy of Every Exquisite Thing. This came out on the 14th of September, the same day as the Taste of Darkness anthology. This has been picked to the YA Book Club choice for October, but because I was too excited to be sent an early copy, I read it in September instead of October. This is a retelling of A Picture of Dorian Gray. It is Laura Stephen's second Gothic retelling, the first one being The Society for Soulless Girls, which retold Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I really love what Laura has done with these books. This one is a really honest and realistic look at lots of different issues, so please check the content warning. It's right at the beginning of the book if you're interested. It deals with a lot. Mainly the main character is sort of feeling the pressure. She's at performing arts school and she's feeling the pressure of performance, of looking beautiful, of feeling like she's enough for her famous actress mother. And a lot of these things lead her down a really dark path, the same path taken by Dorian Gray. I'll let you discover that for yourself. I won't give away any more of the plot, but I just wanted to say that, like The Society of Soulless Girls, Laura's writing is beautiful. It is gothic, atmospheric. Her characters are amazing. It is sapphic like Society of Soulless Girls, so if you're looking for more of that, definitely check this one out. I found the relationships really interesting in this book, and some of the characters I thought might have had a spark between each other. I like the fact how the book surprised me and didn't necessarily go down the paths that I expected. This is a really great one. I think the YA Book Club are going to love it, and I'm excited to hear what everyone thinks of it. Next up, I read the September YA Book Club pick, which was Anna Dressed in Blood. I chose this one because Anna has been out for 13 years. The publisher did a new US edition, which hopefully my copy that is on its way, so I'll be able to show you in a future haul video. But Anna Dressed in Blood is a book that it was probably one of the earlier YA horror books that I read, because when I think about when I was growing up, it was things like Point Horror, and then I just jumped to Stephen King and Clive Barker and all these authors that probably weren't quite appropriate. But books like Anna that I read in my 20s just really resonated with me. That they were the books that I wish had been around when I was a teenager. And Anna is still one of my favourite horrors. I love the fact the whole premise is brilliant. It is about a boy called Cass who is a ghost hunter, and he goes to track down this ghost to kill called Anna Dressed in Blood, who has a really tragic story that unravels as the book goes on. But he ends up getting to know Anna and realising that she isn't necessarily what she appeared to be. I love the fact that this book has so many different facets. It's got romance, it's got very scary, very gory horror. It does have some animal death, so please check the content warnings if you'd like to know any more about that. It isn't graphic, but it is something that I wanted to mention. It's just, I love Kendara Blake's writing. I love her dialogue, characters, and the fact that this is just so inventive. It's still 13 years on. It feels like it could be a book that was written this year, this month. And for people who are fans of things like Buffy and Supernatural, it's absolutely perfect. Next up, you can still see the charity shop sticker on this one. I read this on my Kindle, so I didn't actually pick up the physical copy. I'm rereading the Morganville Vampires books. I slowed down a little bit because the second book had some stuff in it that made me a little bit unsure about whether these books had aged particularly well. So there were some references in the second book to how teenage girls were treated at parties and things like that, like boys behaving really inappropriate, and I didn't like the fact that it wasn't really challenged. So I kind of delayed picking this one up, but I'm glad I did because there wasn't really much, if any, of that in this book. It felt kind of more modern in its viewpoint, if that makes sense. And I thought it was really gripping. There is a new character in this book, Merlin, who anybody I've probably pronounced that wrong, sorry if I have. If anybody's read the Morganville Vampires books, they will probably know this character. He's very interesting as far as vampire characters go. And I love how this book really deepens the mythology of Morganville. It's this town where vampires are kind of run the town, and the humans who live there know about them. Anybody who tries to leave can't remember the vampires when they leave. So it's very kind of mystical and mysterious. And I like the fact that this book picked up a little bit for me. It had a bit of a change in direction. Still got the romance and the found family and the friendship that I enjoy, but I think that this book, like the series, has kind of really upped its game again. It's reminded me why I really like these books. Next up is a book on the pile that I actually read right at the beginning of September because I was reading this one over the summer, and it kind of spilled over into my spooky season reading, but isn't a spooky book. It is Olivia Horrocks' debut adult novel, and her debut novel in general, and you wouldn't know this to read it. It is incredibly accomplished in the description, is really evocative and sensory. It sets the time and place really beautifully. Is a main character who her parents want her to get married. It is the I wish I could remember. I think it's the 1930s. Yes, 1932. It's the 1930s, and her parents want her to settle down, but they've given her this one last summer to explore herself as an artist and a person, and she definitely makes the most of that. I really love the plot. I love those books where it's about a person really figuring out who they are and what they want, and I love books about artists as well, because although I've not a lick of artistic talent, it is sort of adjacent to being an author and being a creator, which I always find interesting, reading books about creative people, so I enjoyed that element of it. Olivia's second book has been announced, and I'll definitely be picking that up because I really, really enjoyed this one. And then I had 2 slashes during the month as well. Had 2 slashes sounds weird, but you know what I mean. I read the Cotton Candy Massacre, which is probably one of the more extreme horror books I've read. I wasn't sure I'd be able to cope, but I think because it was sort of gore intensive that made it extreme, I think that is the kind of extreme horror that I can cope with. This is about a group of teenagers who go into a carnival which has a very, very dark history, and the dark history starts to repeat itself. I won't tell you exactly what you're dealing with, but it does have a paranormal element that I didn't expect and that took this book on a really dark path. Some of the gore, I have to admit, at moments I wasn't sure if it was going to be too much for me, but it just tipped on the edge of what I could handle. Content warning, there is a moment with children that I didn't find. I find children a bit of a trigger, and without me saying too much, the 3 children involved, it didn't really upset me. There was a child victim in the book as well, so bear that in mind if that's something that will bother you. I kind of skipped through that bit. It was dealt with really quickly. I like the style of this book. It is, I'm gonna have to flip back to the beginning because it's been some time since I read it, but it is written kind of like it's a write-up of a horror movie, so it's got reviews of it as if it's a movie. It's written in chapters, but it's written as if it's sort of scenes from a film. It's very visual in the description and the writing style. I know that there is a sequel to it called Cotton Candy Massacre Part Toots, which I appreciate, the little clown reference. I do find clowns terrifying, so this book did push some of me right up to the edge of some of my boundaries, but I really enjoyed it. And this one, I know Kelsey from Slime and Slashes absolutely loves this book and says it's her favourite slasher, and I can see why, because for a start I loved how short it was. It felt like there was nothing extra in this book that wasn't needed. Everything was just really tightly plotted. All the description of the characters and things was done in a way that you really got to know them, and then when the slasher started it really rocketed off at a kind of hurtling pace. I won't say too much about the ending. I did predict a couple of things that happened. Obviously I want you to discover that for yourself if you choose to read this. But I really enjoyed it. If you want a gruesome, fun slasher where you really get to know and root for the characters, and where there are some very inventive death scenes, this is a great choice. Then there are 2 books that aren't my physical stack because I read them on ebook and listened to one on Audible. First up, I got an early copy on NetGalley of Under Your Spell by Laura Wood. Laura is one of my favourite YA authors. She writes absolutely beautiful historical romance, and this is her adult debut, which is contemporary, not historical. So obviously I went into it thinking I'm already a fan of Laura's, but this is something pretty different, and she just did it so well. Her writing style that I really love, and it is really kind of descriptive and evocative and really grounds you in where the book is set, and sort of develops the characters in a way that they just feel like real people. The dialogue, the way they're described, everything that I love about Laura's writing got taken into this book, and then with it being adult, the romance was able to just go even further. So if you're looking forward for that, highly recommend, because Laura did it so well. And can I just say, Theo, the main character, the whole premise is that a girl is tasked to look after this famous rock star for the month, or a couple of months, I think, over the summer, while he writes his new, very overdue album. I don't often get obsessed with book characters, but I have to say Theo in this book, the rock star, is absolutely great. I love the fact that the main character has some reservations about rock stars because of her history, and the book is kind of about her dealing with that, and about you kind of seeing the layers of him and what he is sort of really like as a person, and I just loved it. Laura did a great job. I can't wait to get a physical copy of it and to see what other adult books she writes, because this one was really fun. Next up, I read Lone Women and listened to that on Audible. It was pitched to me as more of a women's view of a Western, which I really appreciate because I'm so interested in the American West. I studied it at school, so I think it's one of those sort of fairly nostalgic subjects to me. But it's always bothered me that the people who were treated really badly at that time period, people from different backgrounds, and particularly Indigenous people, and women, were kind of treated really badly, but then that it isn't often referred to in Westerns. So you watch a Western and it's very much centred on the white male. So I really like the fact that this book is not. The main character is a black woman. She is escaping her past at the very beginning of the book, and she's had to carry a dark secret with her. So she's setting up a new life on the frontier, but she has this secret, and she meets a lot of the women who are living on the frontier as well. And the book is very much, if you're interested in Westerns, it has a lot of that in it. It's very evocative of what it was like to live at that time, but also it has some horror elements. I'd say the only thing I would have liked a little bit more of the horror, just because it was pitched as a horror to me. I expected more of the dark, gruesome stuff, because when it happened it was so excellent. I just wanted more of it. I won't say anything else because it's a bit of a spoiler if I even tried to describe the horror, but it was really inventive. I thought that the Western was great anyway, but to add that element felt really unique and fresh, so I'll definitely be checking out more books by the same author. I'm recording this another day because I realised that I missed one book off my wrap up because I took it off the pile to do an event with the author, and that is Autumn Crow High Fresh Hell with Cameron Chaney. I'll link to the interview in the description if you're interested in watching it. I could not miss this off, so I've decided to record on a different day because I absolutely loved this book. I'm a huge fan of Cameron Chaney's short story anthology Autumn Crow, and this is the first in a series of books about Autumn Crow High that'll be set in the same world. If you're a fan of books like Fear Street and Point Horror and all those amazing vintage books that we loved back in the 90s, this one is absolutely superb. It is also set in the 90s. It really captures that 90s vibe, but I think it also does it with a modern sensibility. And where a lot of those books aren't super developed because they're quite short, this one is a little chunkier, so you get some really nice backstory into the town of Autumn Crow. The characters are beautifully developed. I love the fact that with this book the structure was really interesting. I won't say any more because that will spoil it, but that really kept me on my toes. I think that the plot, the way it was written, everything was beautifully done and really inventive, and I just love this one. I can't wait to read the next book in the series. I think in the meantime I'll just be reading this one, An Autumn Crow, again next Halloween. And that is it for my reading this month. So I didn't read that many books, but the books I read were great. I'm at a point now, I think, where I generally enjoy most of what I read because I check the reviews, I check the content warnings if I need to. I really think about what I think I'm going to enjoy at that point, so I'm just in a really happy place in my reading right now. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of those books or if I've made you want to read them, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.